Zaki, welcome to Q.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm very good.
So the record's called The Secret Life of Planets. You said it's been influenced by your love of science fiction. I was never a science fiction person growing up. It was never my thing. What do you love about it?
Science fiction is the almost proven science.
What?
Science fiction. It's like the thing that you know exists. It's the thing that you have a feeling exists, but then it just needs to be proven. And there are lots of facts lined up to almost prove that it's real.
So you see science fiction as a reflection of reality?
Yeah.
See, to me, it's
Definitely.
not. To me, it's this. It's you know.
This made up fantastical thing.
Yeah,
But it could be real.
It's lightsabers and Wookiees.
Well, no, that's not science fiction. That's action adventure.
Hold on, what's science fiction then?
Science fiction is like
What's science fiction? What do you like? What's your science fiction?
So you know, it's like that one like horror movie. Like horror movies are similar. Like it has to kind of line up. It has to almost be like, you know. So there's this movie Event Horizon that scared me to death because it's the idea that it's a sci-fi horror movie where like you have to, on the other side, it's the idea of what hell would be in a science fiction context.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I understand. It's different than fantasy because science
Yes.
fiction is something that is very close to what could happen, but it's sort of a perversion or a subversion of something that could happen.
Yes, and fantasy is like it's boundless. Like you can have like people, like it's with wings and different colors. It's all kind of that kind of thing. Which is also, I mean, can go into science fiction because of interdimensional theories.
Are you a nervous person?
Maybe.
I mean, I ask that because not because you seem nervous, but because if you see science fiction as a sort of something that could happen, like a worst case scenario of what could happen, I wonder if you spend a lot of time worrying about.
No,
what could
I'm not
happen.
a pessimist.
No.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No.
So science fiction is not a reflection of any kind of pessimism or.
No, I think that my search for what like the meaning of love and the existence of ghosts and time travel, and I feel deeply about those things and really do believe that those things are very real and that we only use a very tiny small part of our brain.
So how does all this come into your music?
Lots of ways. I feel like the music exists for me on a bunch of different levels as far as like just what it makes you feel like. And then what you're saying, I feel like it has to kind of like, it's all well and good to be like, baby, I love you, which is always a really, really lovely thing to say. And it sounds beautiful and all that, which also carries meaning, like tone carries meaning and that kind of thing. But I feel like to be able to connect it to events in the cosmos or chemical reactions or like just kind of like punchlines, like how an MC would approach writing a verse and lining it up and being nerdy about it, like Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm failing to see the connection between that and science fiction.
It's all connected. Like the Jizza is a science fiction fan as well. How it's connected to science fiction, I think how music for me is that going back to that question. I think that it I just really like how it's that thing of trying to prove I don't know, it's project to project, I think.
Yeah.
For this project in particular, the Secret Life of Planets, it is it touches on tone carrying meaning, the vibration, the tone of something carrying information. It talks about time travel. Everything that's here now has existed before. Nothing is new. That kind of thing. And those are all science fiction topics.
I'm starting to figure out what you're talking about here.
But I've always been into science fiction. My first album, Every Opposite, was that as well. It was this whole storyline about just how your mind is, how kind of thinking, free thought is outlawed and that kind of thing. And then develop these characters, which were this rebel army of thinkers and movers and shakers outside of the grid. And then it kind of went into The Secret Life of Planets.
Can you do me a favor? Can you compare and contrast Cape Town and Toronto in terms of vibe around music?
I was gonna make a joke, but I have to leave that for later.
Why?
I was gonna make a joke about water, but it was just in very bad taste. Like, well, Toronto has more water,
Yeah.
for one,
Mhm.
and no, but that's just a terrible joke. Let's just erase that.
No,
Can we-
vibe around music,
Oh, yes,
around music.
the vibe around music. It's hard to say.
For you.
For me.
Yeah.
Um, vibes in general are different. So Cape Town is being. I feel like cities have personalities. Cape Town's very different from Johannesburg. Toronto's very different from Vancouver. I would compare Cape Town to Vancouver more than I would, because it's got the mountains and the ocean and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a laid back kind of like feel good vibe kind of most times within that, and it's kind of got the mid tempo and the that kind of thing. And I feel like we're a product of our environment as well. So the city's having personalities. Toronto's a city. It's very angular. It's got lots of different areas. It's diverse. It's all of those things. So I feel like that kind of comes out in the music as well.
Where do you think you've written more songs?
In the air.
Between?
Yes. They like definitely this album as well. Alistair came out to Cape Town a few times. Like, it was written between worlds in transit. I feel like most of everything that I do happens that way.
Do you read anything into that? That your creativity seems to blossom in periods of transition, as opposed to periods of staying still.
I am now. I think that's my nature. I think I'm just like a moving, nomadic kind of person. I think. Moving and meeting new people and doing new things is invigorating.
Yeah.
So being invigorated is good for creativity.
Are you the kind of person who can't stay
For
in
me?
one place too long?
I
am. I find before I did this, I was touring too, and when I stayed in Toronto for, I think it was the sixth or seventh week in a row, and stayed in the same bed for the sixth or seventh week in a row, I started to get a little antsy. It's probably the hardest thing about this gig for me is the actual staying in one place.
Right. So that definitely feeds into the cold feet thing as well, maybe, like, but definitely I would say me going let me think about, no, for sure.
Yeah, you find you find that challenging.
I think so. I definitely feel that antsy thing I can relate to. Like, when it feels like it's time to make a move, or it's time to something needs to change, or that kind of thing.
You
definitely feel that.
I know that you and Alistair spent some time in South Africa, and you guys were digging through old records to make this record.
Yes.
Who were some of the artists that ended up kind of being heard in one way or another on this record? Whether in influence or
direct or indirect.
Yeah.
I don't know. It started. It actually started in the Hive. It started in, like, Alistair kind of pulling out his existing record collection. One of the starters was Moondog, who is a very interesting, very I don't remember. I don't know the year that he kind of made music, but I believe he was at one point a street musician.
Mm-hmm.
As well as very high level. I don't know. He basically made sounds out of anything and everything, and created his own. Like, almost just using kind of sounds around him, as well as vocal and that kind of thing.
Did you find that in particularly inspirational in method or in sound?
Well, I just feel like I think it was similar to what we were already kind of doing in a way. I feel like it was more like to touch on, like, the soul and sensory aspect of music. Just like, where real music comes from is, like, it's not, you don't have to be a classically trained, or you don't have to be like all that kind of thing, but we listen to a lot of textures.
Yeah.
In instrumentation and in vocal, that kind of thing. So a lot of the records were some of them were like off key kind of bootleg records of that kind of thing, and it was more like that kind of like listening to the variety of like trying to capture that information in the tones and
Are,
in the music.
are you classically trained in any way? Do you have any
No,
of that training? Did you go to school or anything like that
no,
for it?
no.
Great. I mean, me neither. I mean, I think, and I think that we can I think this, the fact that you call those recordings off key is really, really interesting, because I think it has more to do with the way we see tonality, the way we see key, the way we've been kind of locked into this kind of 12-tone system.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of the most beautiful things live between those 12 tones, you know?
There were some off-key instruments in this record, which were like really, like a lot of the stuff can't be played again. At some point we had a memory moog as a guest, and Casey was having a field day with the memory moog.
What's the memory moog?
It's a memory moog. It's a synthesizer.
Yeah.
And it is one of the not one of the older. I don't know the proper like.
Yeah, well, whatever. Sure.
History of the gear.
This isn't Jeopardy. No one's
No,
gonna.
for
You know,
sure.
Alex
But
Trebek's not gonna come out.
It's a moog and it's a memory moog. That's
Yeah.
what it is. But it's an old synth.
Yeah.
And this one in particular was a little bit off, or a little bit. It was unique, and it had its character, and it had its flaws. And then there was also like Alistair's ARP Odyssey, which had a few keys that were off key as well, that were beautifully off key.
Yeah.
And so those moments of just kind of being vulnerable and being kind of wobbly were really beautiful.
I really love modern music, but I find auto-tune kind of scary sometimes, because a lot of the beauty is in the off key.
In the flaws.
Well, the off key is who we are. We're not robots.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Well, I find autotune is kind of like it's like an instrument as well. Like it's kind of someone who really knows how to play with autotune can really like work it and use it very well.
I hear you, but sometimes you listen to the radio and I hear a song and I go like, give me something, just give me something off, give me something real here. Give me, you know.
Yeah. And everything is, a lot of things are sounding the same. I shouldn't say everything, but
I know
a lot of things.
I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Here. And that's what I love about the record. There's a lot of humanity on this record. It's something that I'm not hearing as much in a lot of music. I'm going to talk about just one more thing here, or just a couple more things. So The Secret Life of Planets comes 6 years after the Polaris Prize nominated debut album, as you mentioned, Every Opposite. And in between that time, you lost your dad, Zaki Ibrahim, who was a highly regarded pioneering broadcaster in South Africa. Tell me about your dad's influence on you as a musician. I know it's not easy to talk about.
Definitely no. I mean, I think it's interesting because speaking about this album for the first time, like it's been ready for a little while, and it's been some time now since making the record, and also my dad passing. I'm speaking about it for the first time in since, you know.
How old is he?
76.
Right.
Yeah. Young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I lost my father 64.
Ew.
Yeah. No, that's fine. It was a few years ago, but I understand you finding it hard to talk about for the first time, because it is
surprising. It's surprising. I thought, you know, I've gone through my process and it's still gonna come out and that kind of thing. But to answer the question, what the first memory was, I think my dad definitely he communicated with me. He communicated through music a lot of the time. It was never his profession, but the way he met my mom was through being a percussionist and touring schools and doing, you know, it was like a side hustle kind of thing. He also used to make drums.
Okay. What kind of drums?
Like djembe, like talking. I think
drums.
it's talking drums.
Yeah.
But like he would tune it in a certain way, and he would make it with leather and like.
Cool.
He customized for a lot of people.
Cool.
There was this one, the earliest memory, and I'm not sure because it was over a period of time, was of me sleeping inside his barrel drum. Like he had a drum that he sat on.
Yeah.
That he sat on, and there were cushions and like material inside.
Yeah. To deaden the sound. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would sleep in there from a baby, and up until I was maybe like 8 or something. I remember going in there. I still remember the smell, but it's also that rhythm, like certain rhythms and certain like the sound, like certain bass tones will put me to sleep. I do get sleepy sometimes from that kind of thing, and my as far as like memory. that's like a memory of him and rhythm. And he also explained a lot about rhythm. And probably my first lesson in music is as soon as you start to think,
Yeah.
as soon as you start to count,
Yeah.
you lose rhythm and you lose the plot.
Yeah.
So being too calculated, it's gone.
You got to feel it.
And the space between the sounds is as important. That's
Mozart said
one.
that, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my dad was like making it like it was his.
No.
I'm just
I'm saying your dad definitely didn't lift it from Mozart, but it's the sign of a brilliant musical mind. Herbie Hancock also says that.
Really?
That Miles Davis used to tell him that that the most important thing I can teach you when someone sit down and playing piano is not to play. Yes. That's the hardest thing I can teach you is not to play. Mm-hmm. So it seems like your dad was on the right track.
Yeah, and the memories are all flooding in now. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And
how connected this record is to him as well. I just kind of like went on autopilot and made a record with Alistair and Casey.
But he's in there.
Oh yeah. And his writing is actually in the record as well.
Really?
On the song Binary.
What is that something he wrote?
For Andrea.
Tell me about it.
For Andrea, he wrote for my mom.
What was it like to put that on your record?
It was a good choice.
Was it hard? Was it hard for you personally though?
Probably, yes, for sure. I was definitely I had some moments in singing that part, and then got my friends to come in and sing the choir part for that.
What was that like for you in that moment? Just take me to that moment of hearing your father's words come back to you like that.
I'm not sure how the decision to put that on that part, but I think the music came first, and it sounded like heaven. It sounded like another kind of dimension, and it just fit properly, that his song for Andrea. It's a portion of the song, and then I played it for my mom.
Yeah,
and she lost it.
Did she?
Yes. It's like, oh, I maybe shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
And you have a son now.
Yes.
How old's your son?
He just turned 3.
Just turned 3.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he's 3. But it seems like he just came around.
It's interesting. Actually, I was just going to say something. We were just talking now when we were setting up about how my son is telling long stories now. And so he started telling these stories about like when I was big and I was your mom, or like when I was your grandpa. Oh. And he said to Alistair the other day, when I was big and you were my child and I was holding you when you were a baby. Like saying things like that. And it's funny because that's what Binary is about. And it has him on the song as well. But I haven't I haven't really spoken about this with him. And then Jamal was like, he's an indigo child.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It means.
Is it the kind of thing like something
exactly.
something came before him? Like he's
been around.
He's lived a past life.
He knows. I feel like if we are to go traveling, he'll show me where things happen.
What?
He's got that vibe.
He has that old soul to him.
He's very sure of himself. He's very, as a matter of fact.
So you slept in your dad's drum.
Yes.
What are you doing with your son? What's yours and your son's relationship through music?
He's been to many rehearsals. He's been around when I was writing.
Is that important for you?
When I was touring. Yeah. Because I don't want to I don't want him to not know any part of me. I feel like I want him to see how human and how all the different parts, so he can just kind of know me.
I'm still quite blown away by this past life he seems to be leading.
It's interesting. And you know what, like just little things, since he was really, really small, I had this kind of like joke that he's the Buddha. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like I don't know that much about like reincarnation or like anything, but he was very attracted to all the different the little carvings or images of Buddha, where there was the chubby bald Buddha, or the Thai, like with the headdress and like that kind of thing, would be like Buddha, would like just always attracted to and wanted to pick up and hold and be.
Something going on.
Something interesting
going on with him.
There.
Zaki, thank you so much for coming in and talking.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
This has been great.